The father of Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes went to jail, suspected of driving while intoxicated last night.
Just days now before his son is set to play in the Super Bowl. Back in 2018, he was charged with his second DUI. Mahomes Sr. could face up to 10 years in prison.
And was released this afternoon on a $10,000 bond.
Patrick Mahomes is one of the most famous athletes on the planet. He's been to 6 consecutive AFC championship games. He's played in 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls, including the Super Bowl this Sunday. He's won 2 NFL MVP awards. And on Super Bowl week, we're stuck talking about a member of Patrick Mahomes' family again. Before we get to the video, please be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to help the channel grow. Now that that's out of the way, Patrick Mahomes Sr. was arrested for driving while impaired on Sunday. This is an offense he's been found guilty of twice before and could face up to 10 years in prison if found guilty again. Now look, in general, DUI, DWI, depending on which state you're in, driving while impaired or driving under the influence, it's one of the most selfish crimes out there. It's a crime of laziness. It's a crime of cheapness. It's selfish to put others in harm's way just because it's inconvenient to figure out a safer way home other than driving yourself. Having said that, this is a sports channel, not a lecture channel. I am going to say don't ever drive while impaired, but getting to the sports side of this, I just can't help but feel how shameful it is that Patrick Mahomes is about to play in a Super Bowl in a week where Patrick Mahomes should just be thinking about the Super Bowl, should be preparing for this game. It's the biggest game of his career for the 4th time. You know, they're all kind of tied as the most important, although you could also make the argument that each one is more important than the last because you get one more ring and adds to your legacy. But instead of focusing on the 49ers defense and instead of taking time to get ready for this game, Patrick Mahomes now has to think about his dad. He has to think about, oh, well, what if this guy goes to prison for the next 10 years? I don't know if his dad's going to foot the bill for the lawyer. Patrick Mahomes Sr. was a baseball player in the MLB for 10 years. His career earnings was just under $3 million. If he was smart with that money, hopefully he's invested it in the right places and it's grown. He can take care of himself. If not, I imagine Patrick Mahomes, who's playing on a 10-year, $450 million contract, I imagine he might foot the bill. And the only reason I bring that up is because if that's the case, then you know that Patrick Mahomes has to be a little bit more involved, even if ever so slightly. It's a distraction that Patrick Mahomes just does not need this week. He doesn't need to be dealing with that. Now, look, I get it. It's not like Patrick Mahomes Sr. was planning on ruining this week for his son. It's not like that was his intention. No matter what the intention was, no matter what the thought processes were that led up to this whole thing, at the end of the day, you just took away from your son's week. Your son's Super Bowl week, you did take away from that. And you're lucky nobody got hurt driving while impaired. I mean, that definitely is a situation that definitely could have gone a lot worse. Thank God nobody was hurt, yourself included. But a part of what makes this situation even worse, Patrick Mahomes Sr. isn't even the only Mahomes that's in legal trouble at the moment. Just last month, Jackson Mahomes, Patrick's brother, was in a courtroom for charges of sexual assault and battery. While I was editing this video, I came to realize that the victim of the Jackson Mahomes situation, or the alleged victim of the Jackson Mahomes situation, she made it pretty clear that she wants to put this whole situation behind her. So I've decided to edit out her name, and instead I'll just refer to her as restaurant owner. I'm still able to make the points that I want to make without giving you her name. There's really no reason to. That's why you're going to see a blur over my mouth and you'll just hear the word restaurant owner moving forward in the video. Just didn't want you guys to think that I'm getting cheap and lazy with my editing on here. I did want to respect her privacy, which is why I decided to just take her name out of it. For anybody not aware, Jackson Mahomes and his friends last year were in a restaurant in Kansas City, and Jackson Mahomes allegedly assaulted a waiter and then forced himself upon the owner of the restaurant. She owns the restaurant, and her stepdaughter is friends with Jackson Mahomes, or was friends with Jackson Mahomes, or something to that effect. Now on video, we saw him force himself on her, or at least it appears that he's forcing himself on restaurant owner 3 different times in the back room of this restaurant. Now, it's not entirely clear who called the police, but police were called. They responded to the incident.
Our restaurant, nobody here, we didn't call the police.
Following the incident, restaurant owner and her employees have said that the restaurant's been vandalized, that business slowed down and eventually reached the point where they actually had to shut down the restaurant. She said that she's received death threats from people. It seems like it's just been a horror story for her. She's said that she just wishes this would all be in the past already. Now, obviously, I have no idea if Jackson Mahomes is the reason that business slowed down. I couldn't prove that one way or another. On January 4th, 2024, so last month, the sexual assault charges were dropped. And they were dropped because restaurant owner wasn't talking to the police, wasn't cooperating with the investigation. Allegedly, she just wanted to move on and she didn't want to take part in the trial. Now, I want to be really clear about this next point that I'm about to make. I think that if victims don't come forward, it is impossible for our criminal justice system to work the way it's supposed to work. It's impossible for us to hold people accountable if the victim doesn't come forward and say, hey, this is what happened. But the part that doesn't get talked about enough is how much we're asking of a victim in that situation. You have to remember, every time that victim is telling this story, they're reliving it. And in the case of restaurant owner, where she's claiming that she's gotten death threats and her restaurant was vandalized and she had to shut down her business, assuming that it actually is related to the Jackson Mahomes situation. And I just want to cover myself legally here. I'm saying assuming that it is connected to that. I don't know that it is, can't prove that it is. My heart just goes out to her. My heart breaks. This is why victims can't come forward, because if they're going to face death threats and they're going to face, their business going out of business and they're going to face all these, they're getting punished for being a victim of something. It's terrible. And I think another piece to it, no matter how you felt about the situation, I made a video about the Deshaun Watson situation a month and a half, 2 months ago. I'll put it up here and I'll drop it in the description in case you want to look at it. But there were 30 different women who accused Deshaun Watson of sexual assault and or sexual harassment. Deshaun Watson was then given the most guaranteed money in NFL history. Deshaun Watson served out a slap on the wrist penalty. I do get it that he did go to court and was not found guilty. So I couldn't tell you whether he for sure did it or not, but what I could tell you is 30 people is a lot. And I think that if you're a victim and you just watched this play out on TV, you just watched 30 women come forward about a guy, how are you going to come forward? I mean, you just watched 30 women come forward, united together, and they lost. You watched Ben Roethlisberger in a similar situation all those years ago. The victims came forward and they lost. And we've seen it happen countless other times in other situations surrounding players of the NFL for years and years and years. Now, Jackson Mahomes is not a player of the NFL, but his brother is the face of the NFL right now and has been the face of the NFL for about 6 years now. It just feels like there's a lot of distractions around Patrick Mahomes, but to me, it just feels unfair that once again, we're talking about things related to Patrick Mahomes that kind of have nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes, and it's at the fault of his family. Please be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for more content surrounding happenings of the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, the NBA, the NCAA, the ABCD, the NWA, sports world. Please subscribe.